groom skiing, 8 out of 10 sunny days, stopping on the top of the mountain is an experience that you will never repeat anywhere else unless you come back and do it with us a second year, of course.
From Eat, Drink, Fun, this is the Eat, Drink, Fun podcast. I'm Chris Miller. Welcome back to the Eat, Drink, Fun podcast. Today's conversation is with Tim Hudson of Inspired Italy. Inspired Italy is a ski adventure business that leads small groups on multi-day adventures where each night is spent atop a different mountain. These mountains are so breathtakingly beautiful that UNESCO recognized the entire range as a World Heritage Site in 2009. My conversation with Tim traverses the origin story for Inspired Italy, the ski safari experience, local culture, and of course, outstanding wine and food. We recorded this episode slopeside over drinks and coffee on the terrace of a charming family-run rifugio in the Alto-Adige Sizer Alm region. It's one of those glorious Dolomite ski days, which is perfect for discussing the things that make this ski destination an absolute must for your bucket list. Please enjoy.
So, Tim Hudson, welcome to the Eat, Drink, Fun podcast.
Well, obviously the Germans at the next table are welcoming as well. Yes, thank you very much indeed.
We are in a gorgeous setting. Thank you for bringing us here. This is great. I want to get from you first and foremost to explain to the folks listening to this, what in the world is a ski safari?
It's a very, very good question. There are a number of people around, particularly in the Alps, branding themselves with the term ski safari. But for us, a pure ski safari means traveling through the Dolomites from rifugio to rifugio. And when I say rifugio, the English translation is refuge. Another word is hut. But when I say hut, I don't want you to think about doors that don't fit with snow blowing underneath there and horsehair blankets and smelly socks. It's far from that. So basically, ski safari is rifugio to rifugio, hut to hut skiing, but using, in our case, only the groomed slopes. So no off-piste, groomed slope skiing all through the Dolomites.
And the concept is you've got everything you need with you.
In our case, yeah, exactly. We provide all of our clients with a 22-litre backpack, and we know from lots of experience that is all you need for a week. And when I say a week, a typical ski safari is 7 nights, and some safaris you're out for 4 nights, others you're out for 5 nights. But believe you me, a 22-litre backpack with modern clothing is perfectly adequate.
And how big are the groups that you're taking out? How many people?
We have a very specific policy of a maximum of 7. Some groups are 6. We call that a special, but an absolute maximum of 7. And there's good reason for that, really. It becomes more dinner party than coach party, if you like. So there's a lot more intimacy with that level of people. But equally, if you're a shy and retiring type, of which there are very few on our ski safaris, but if you are of that type, you can actually sort of slink into the background with that number of people as well.
Yeah, it seems like a great number. It's the same thing if I do a wine tasting.
Yeah.
When you get above a certain number, usually it's around 8 to 10. There are side conversations going on. There's other stuff going on. And then the people who are really there, who are really into it, they may be distracted. But you can develop that rapport. And You're going over 7 days. I mean, you must get to know these people quite well throughout the course of the week.
I have stolen this from somewhere or other, but our clients arrive as guests and leave as friends. And we create a WhatsApp group for every group. And we have WhatsApp groups that have been running for 5 or 6 years. I mean, it is just remarkable how people get to know each other.
So what is the backstory? How did this come about? How did you end up doing ski safaris?
I consider myself an entrepreneur. And I've had many businesses from real estate through software. And you get an instinct when you hear something. There's just a little hook, there's a little trigger, and you get excited. And the hook and the trigger for this was a friend of mine, an Italian guy who lives in Umbria, and he married a local girl from here in the Val Gardena. And he took me for a beer one night, and we were just chatting about how, his skiing and his experience in the area. And he told me about how he'd met his wife in the ski pass office of all places. And then lo and behold, they're getting married. And one day, just before they got married, the father-in-law, who was 72 years old at the time, said to Ricardo, "Come on, Ricardo, I'm going to take you skiing. Pack your backpack." Ricardo thought, okay, that's a bit odd. Anyway, packs his backpack. And they were gone for 4 nights. And basically, Ricardo's father-in-law took him from the Val Gardena into the Val di Fassa, and they stopped in a rifugio with a friend of his. And then they moved on through Falcarde into Civetta, and they stopped over there, Cinque Torri, etc. And they did this big loop of the Dolomites. And I was just sitting there with my mouth up because I'd never heard of this concept. I mean, on piste. Yeah, ski touring, but this was on piste. Yeah. And okay, there are a few taxi links, a few bus links, but the concept was just mind-blowing. So I told my wife, Louise, and she's a great planner. And so the following season, 5 of us, Betty and Al, Jill, Louise and myself, set off to basically replicate what Ricardo and his father-in-law had done. And it was just phenomenal. I mean, it was just mind-blowing, really, given the concept of a standard, ski in, ski out holiday in the Three Valleys or in...
Right, that's the standard thing.
Exactly.
You're going with your family or a group or even just a couple, and you're staying in one place, you're doing maybe half board where you're getting dinner with your breakfast, but you're basing yourself in one location.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is much more of an adventure. You probably get to see much more than you normally would.
Absolutely. And you learn so much more. I mean, we covered, and we cover, hundreds of kilometres in a week. And I mean, the big thing that the clients get out of this, which is inevitable, is that you are starting your day on top of the mountain. Yeah. So, you're not rolling up to the bottom of the mountain, getting the chair. We are skiing down while everybody else is probably still in bed.
You get the chords.
Absolutely. Just fantastic.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. As far as the composition of the group, who is usually doing this? And, the mixture of repeat clients, the people who you find, where are they coming from?
Sure. Well, good question. We've been going now. I think this is our 12th season now. And in the early days, our average client was certainly 60 plus, probably even 65 plus, to around about 75. The bottom end of that, actually both ends of that scale have pushed out. Actually, this year we've set a record. We have 3 82-year-olds, would you believe? But the bottom end is also pushing out as well. But in its core, I would say probably you're looking at 50 plus to late 60s, maybe even early 70s is the age bracket. In terms of demographic, because obviously we're an English company, I would guess that this year probably 40 to 50% of our clients are British. But hard on the heels of that number are the Americans, because Dolomite Superski did a deal with Ikon. I think this is the 3rd season now. And so the uptake in the American market is massive at this moment in time. But, my last group, I had a Scot, an English vicar, a guy from Singapore, Asian guy from Singapore, Michael, 2 Australians, one guy from Dubai, and a real estate agent from Whistler Blackcomb.
Wow.
So,
all over. I mean, but it takes a special person, doesn't it, who, wants to basically put a rucksack on and go hut to hut. I mean, we're talking this exquisite niche. I'm a skier. I'm traveling abroad to ski. I want to stay on when we say a hut, to your point, these are beautiful structures. They're comfortable. They're very cozy. It's not roughing it
At all. Not at all.
But still, that's a sense of adventure. I mean, this is a pretty niche group,
Yeah.
and you're basically maxed out. I asked you, I know we had lunch the other day, how many open slots do you have for next year? And it's already filling up quick a year out.
Yeah, so I mean, typically we're just playing around with numbers at the moment. So I mean, as we were talking about, one of the major constraints is that there are only so many rifugi, and therefore there is a finite number of beds, and that's not a big number. I mean, it'll be in the few hundreds. So what we do is we create a schedule. Now we're in the process of doing that for 2025. And we will publish those numbers and those itineraries, hopefully within the next 6 weeks, let's say by mid-April, worst case scenario. But and so I hope next year we'll have something like 25 start dates. So 25 by 7/6, you're out there, 150 something odd slots. This year we've sold 144. So the demand is huge. The booking profile basically goes, we sell 60% of our slots by beginning of June, something like that. Then there's a trickle through the summer, and then probably late August, early September, we get a peak. And after that, you're talking about a few slots that are left.
Right. And the season is January, February mostly.
Yeah, people ask us, can we do this at Christmas? Can we do this in December? But the way the Dolomites works is the answer is simply no, because the Dolomites gears for its high season, which is Christmas and New Year. So that's always 2 weeks. Italy has 3 national holidays over the holiday period: Christmas, New Year, and then the 6th of January, which is Bufane. So you always get that concentration. So we start typically the first weekend of January, when everything has been opened, tested, and we run through until about mid-March, something like that.
Yeah. Which is a great time to ski. I love skiing in March here because the weather, the days are longer. The sun is always shining here. By the way, I really hope it picks up in the background, this jingling. There's a horse and sleigh, and you can take a horse and sleigh to this beautiful rifugio, this beautiful cabin where we are now. Take a minute, explain, where are we? I mean, I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to obviously put it in the show, but this is a stunning location. Where are we?
We're in a place called Alto-Adige, to use its Italian name, or Seiser Alm if you use its German name or Austrian name. It's part of the Val Gardena system, but most people who go to the Val Gardena probably go to Selva. And actually, the majority probably wouldn't choose to come here because it's just a little bit more difficult to get to. But if you're in the Val Gardena or within striking distance of Alto-Adige, you're an intermediate well, it doesn't matter who you are, but in terms of ski ability, really, it suits intermediate skiers and beginner skiers. You've got to come here. It's Europe's highest, largest skiable plateau. Heights from around 1,800 metres to about 2,200 metres. Top of my head, I think there's 75 kilometres of skiing here. But, the term winter wonderland is overdone. But if you want to see a real winter wonderland, you come here, because that bells that you can hear, as you say, this is a halfling, a pony, who's just eating my skis by the looks of it. A single horse-drawn sleigh. So, a holiday here means alpine skiing, it means cross-country skiing, it means snowshoeing, walking, tobogganing, lunching, wine, sunshine. I mean, it's just a bliss. Yeah. It is absolute. And this is, without a shadow of a doubt, my favourite place to ski. This is my default.
This is up there for me as well. I mean, we come back every year. It's this. I love Austria. There's a different vibe, atmosphere in Austria. Obviously, they are very good at the party in Austria.
Yes.
But the food is also exceptional. The wine is also exceptional. This region, Alto-Adige, Südtirol, you have the combination of the wine, the blending of cultures, Austrian, Italian, Latin. I mean, the food and the wine are exceptional.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've discussed this as well. It seems like every year you come back, there are these incremental improvements in infrastructure and hotels and comfort, and they really do a world-class job.
Absolutely. No, it is. I mean, over the last, I'm going to say, I think it was 5 years, on average, the ski infrastructure has received something like 100 million euros every winter. So it's €500 million have been put in the last 5 years. That's a massive number.
No, that's impressive. So, we mentioned earlier you had kind of an eclectic group, the last group you took out. What are some of the top impressions for first-timers who come and do this? Coming from North America, I grew up skiing in New England, which has its own atmosphere and challenges, and so you get very used to being cold on lifts that move very slowly or are fixed to a cable. But what are some of the things that your guests tell you that they're either surprised about, or they didn't realize, or their eyes are open, or whatever?
Where to start with that one? The first thing that really pops into my mind is usually by the time you get 3 or 4 days in, is just how large this area is, and the way it's laid out as well. Because as skiers, what we're used to doing is going to a resort, and even if you pick the, in inverted commas, supposedly the world's largest resort like Three Valleys, exactly, you are effectively skiing a mountain, or maybe 2 or 3 valleys of a mountain, and that's it. But here, I've been trying to think of an analogy for this, and the best I've come up with, I hope this translates really, is coming to the Dolomites is a bit like going to Tuscany. Okay, the Dolomites is to skiing what Tuscany is to Italy and to tourism. So if you go to Tuscany, what do you think of? I'll go to Firenze, I'll go to Florence, I'll go to Siena, and I'll go and drink some Chianti and whatever else it is. Well, it's the same in the Dolomites. You have to come to the Dolomites as a skier with the same mentality. Now, look, you can come with your ski resort mentality, base yourself in Selva, Canazei, Rabba, wherever it is, and ski the local area. You'll have a fabulous time. But you will miss out on so much because there is so much to go at. Like Tuscany, you fly into Pisa or you fly into Milan, you travel to Firenze, but then you get in a car, a coach, bicycle, maybe, and you will travel. You have to come here with the same idea to get the same sort of value. So that's the first thing, is the size of the place. I mean, it's massive. Let me just throw, for those of your listeners who are statistically minded, the area of the Dolomiti Superski will not fit into Greater London. Okay, so you couldn't drop it inside the M25. You could drop it on the top of Los Angeles and you'd lose Los Angeles. It's bigger than the footprint of Los Angeles. Wow. So it's massive. Roughly 28 miles east to west and slightly more north to south. 28 miles straight line distance. That's absolutely huge. So that certainly is the first thing. The second thing is, particularly for American skiers, is the quality of skiing. So I love our American guests, but...
here's the but, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Tell me.
So American skiers come with the idea, particularly if they haven't skied in Europe before, which is fine. Their reference point is West Coast, maybe Ice Coast, East Coast skiing. And
Ice Coast. Thanks.
You're welcome. I did a lot of skiing in the Catskills when I lived in New York, so I know what it's about.
Catamount, I know it well.
Exactly. Leave that behind. Leave that experience behind, because
it's not even the same universe.
No, it isn't. This is groom skiing, and there are over 1,200 kilometres. That's 750 miles of slopes here. 889 is the official number. 889 different pistes to ski. Every single centimetre is groomed every single night. Every single night. You get out on this, until midday, and you can still find fresh groomers, if you know where to look. So leave your skis at home, leave your powder mentality at home, and come and ski corduroy. get a pair of carving skis, good all mountain skis, and you'll have a riot. You'll have an absolute riot. You aren't going to ski powder here. You know, I see so many comments on social media. We want to go backcountry in Cortina. Great. In Cortina, the last 10 years, the average snowfall has been 180 centimetres. And for those of you who don't do centimetres, that's less than 6 feet of snow. You aren't going to do powder there. You've got to ski the groomers, because that's what this is all about. And, you know, am I getting on my horse here? I can just feel it a little bit.
It's
but,
okay.
you know, I have seen...
You have a captive audience.
I have seen some comments, you know, again, on the Ikon Pass Facebook group. Coming to the Dolomites is skiing for beginners. Well, that's because you're doing it wrong, frankly. You know, if you come with me, I will show you sites, give you ski experiences that you would never ever have anywhere else in the world.
Well, what I always appreciate about the black runs here is they're steep, and the black run is about pitch and angle and technical challenge, and often the World Cup ski runs. So that's one of the things that you don't really get a lot of back home is, hey, I mean, yes, you do have Beaver Creek, and you can go ski, you know, there, but here, you know, you can ski the Gran Risa, you can ski over in Selva and Groden, and there's very challenging skiing if you want it, but there's skiing for everybody, so it's great also if you're coming with your family. But you can get off-piste, although that's not what this experience is necessarily about. And there are places for that. If you want powder, great. You've got Utah.
Yep.
You've got Japan.
Yep.
Which I hope to do next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and those are unique, and that you should go do those things.
Absolutely.
But when you're here, there's all of these other intangibles that we don't necessarily get to experience. This is obviously the Eat, Drink, Fun podcast, so I have to ask about the food and the beverage and that whole part of this experience. Someone's coming here for a week. What do you recommend? What should they be eating, and what should they be drinking?
Well, you can get burgers here, unfortunately.
Very good ones.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I mean, it's got this mountain cheese on it, and the Italians, if they know how to cook meat, it's unbelievable. I've not had an overcooked burger here. It is unbelievably delicious.
Yeah, no,
juicy.
that's fantastic. Yeah. The meat here is really fantastic, and this is a meat production area. So, whatever you have in terms of meat is always a good quality. Well, how do you start to answer that question? One of the things that some North American visitors are not used to is that, we'll take this place where we're sitting here for argument's sake. It's family owned. It's a small restaurant with probably 20, 25 covers inside. And outside we've got probably, 60, 70. Everything's produced in that kitchen and everything is fresh. So in terms of ultra-processed food, you don't get it here. You know, this is Italian culture, despite its history. It's Italian culture. And each individual hut is really competing with the next place to win your business. And so I can tell you that the uova spec patate in here, spiegelei, is dramatic. And you get 3 eggs.
So we're talking about potatoes with speck, which is a dried ham.
Correct.
It's delicious. It's like, it's not quite bacon. It's more...
I don't know how you describe it, really. I've tried. You are towards a bacon, but it's a lot subtler.
Air-dried and smoked. Yeah. So it's got a very nice flavor to it. And then you drop a fried egg, a spiegelei, on top of that.
Exactly.
You can imagine. I mean, it's delicious.
Exactly. We call it a skier's breakfast or all-day breakfast.
You have to earn that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that is ubiquitous right the way through the Dolomite. So wherever you go, you can get that. So the first thing I'd like to point out really is the freshness of the food. The variety. You know, it's a bit of a cliche now whenever you read about food in the Dolomites. It is a fusion of Austrian, Germanic influence and Italian. So here you can get a spaghetti carbonara, for argument's sake, and I would highly recommend that. But equally, you can get a Kaiserschmarrn, And you really should get a Kaiserschmarrn.
Side note, the Kaiserschmarrn is a typical Austrian dessert. It was enjoyed by former Austrian royalty, the emperor in particular. It's called the emperor's pancake, for lack of a better translation. It's essentially a big fluffy pancake chopped up into little squares. Got some raisins in there, but it's dusted with powdered sugar, and you have it usually with a plum compote or applesauce. And as the Germans say, it's deftig. It's very filling and heavy, but you can have that alone as a lunch, and it'll fill you up.
And you should try it, definitely.
Yeah. Amazing.
Milanese is another standard sort of dish. Goulash soup, goulash with polenta. I mean, the variety is huge, really. Yeah. And again, I would encourage anyone who comes to the Dolomites to try everything. Yeah. I mean, not all at once, of course, but, don't just stick with your burger and fries or your things that you recognise. Try things that you don't recognise. Yeah. And quite often, you can go to places and just ask them about the food. What would they recommend? What's their dish of the day, for argument's sake? There are often selections of dishes, so you can get a plate of cheeses and cold cuts, for argument's sake.
Yeah.
And
that's
fantastic.
One of my favorites. Yeah, it's a charcuterie board, but it's local mountain cheese. Yep, it's speck.
Exactly.
And what I love is they have horseradish on the side, which it's amazing. It's not like horseradish that you may expect. Sometimes it's dry and kind of shaved. Be careful, it's not Parmesan cheese, so don't pop it all in enough. But it's wonderful. The combination of that with, their lighter red wines like Schiava, Farmaccio, which isn't everyone's cup of tea, but when you have that light, elegant, airy, fruity wine with a good amount of acid, with some of the, cheese that's very creamy or very, pungent, it's like an unbelievable combination. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, can I pick up on the wine thing as well? Because as we were talking an hour ago, the Dolomites is split between two regions. So for American listeners, it's split between two states. It's like New York and Connecticut. And that's significant because the Veneto wines are very different to the Südtirol wines. So when I'm in the western part of the Dolomites, which is where we are at the moment, then I would tend to go for those local wines because these guys in these huts are more inclined to buy from those vineyards as well. So you've got a very Austrian influence in that. And let me start out by saying I'm no sommelier at all, but I know what I like. And Gewurztraminer around here would be my go-to wine.
Lovely.
Nice white wine. And again, huge variety of wines. Yeah. But maybe, again, just because you don't recognise the grape, for argument's sake, and I will say, if you're a wine connoisseur, then in Italy, the wines are branded by the vineyard. So if you say, I want a Merlot, for argument's sake, I mean, you will get Merlot in Italy, unfortunately. But my wife calls Merlot the weed of the wine world. But anyway, she's a wine snob. But, you won't find, or you'll find it more difficult to identify the grapes on the label. Some do, and some just won't. Some will just say it's whatever the vineyard is called.
Right.
So don't be afraid just because you don't recognise it. And a lot of the grape varieties you won't recognise. It's a side fact that Italy only exports, less than 20% of its wine. So by definition, 80% of the wines here you've probably never ever heard of.
It's true. I mean, it's crazy. I remember reading as I was in my studies, there are over 2,000 distinct indigenous grape varieties throughout Italy. So trying to memorize them, you'll probably go insane.
Exactly.
But that is one of those things. You're going to come here, you're going to spend a week, you're going to enjoy it. You might as well try to taste those local flavors.
Absolutely.
And that includes those local wines and even the international varieties. And I put this out there, and Merlot gets beat up a lot, and sometimes, pretty well. But you know what? Merlot grown here is going to be different than Merlot grown in California.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that has to do with the soil, the climate, everything that makes this region a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And as special and beautiful as it is,
correct,
you have this change of temperature between night and day, this diurnal variation, which retains all of this great acidity in the wine. So the Merlot is not going to taste like the Merlot that
absolutely.
you know. And you may actually love it. We had a Cabernet the other day, an Elena Voc Cabernet, and it blew my mind. It was so good.
Yeah.
And also because these wines, like you said, a lot of them don't make it out of Italy. They're consumed locally. The price tags are amazing. I mean, that's, I think, one thing that maybe your guests have mentioned is things here are, for the quality and the value that you get, it's amazing.
It is. It is. Absolutely. So, I mean, talking wine prices, I'm right in the process of finessing a web page on our website, which is called The Skier's Guide to the Dolomites. And I wrote to a few of the refugios where we go for lunch, and I asked them at the beginning of the season what was their pricing. And one measure that sort of sticks in my mind is Collorodella in the Val di Fassa. His wine per bottle starts at 25 euros, goes to, I think it was 55 euros.
For his best.
For his best wine.
Yeah.
That's like crazy,
Good luck finding a Napa cab for 50 euros.
There you are. He's a rifugio, 2,222 meters above sea level. Easy number to remember. And you're buying a bottle of wine at 25 euros. I mean, it's crazy.
I've paid that much for a simple Malbec in Manhattan. Yeah. A glass. A glass. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the next question, what is in store for the future? Where are things going? What are the plans?
For Inspired Italy?
Yes.
We're a very specific business. First thing to say is that we're a lifestyle business. This is as much about me as it is about our guests. And sort of maybe joking aside, we always put the guest at the centre of the experience. This enables me, my wife, and my business colleagues to enjoy the full winter here in the Dolomites and so on. So we will never scale this on a sort of cookie cutting level. We use our guides, and we call them ski leaders, are all expats and they're all volunteers. And they all have an enthusiasm for skiing above all else, and they love to show off the Dolomites. And so, next year there will be 6 of us. As I mentioned earlier, we haven't fully drafted the schedule as yet, but we'll probably do around 25 start dates. And I can't ever see it getting larger than that. So around about 150, 160, 170 guests maximum, if we can get the bookings for that, i.e. the beds, that is. And it's about creating new itineraries, new routes, exploring new areas. There are, despite our, whatever it is, 7 or 8 itineraries that we have, there are still some areas that we don't ski. Michael, the Singaporean who was with me the other week, said, give me a call when I can come back and ski all of the areas. I said, my goodness me, I'd take a month-long ski safari. Lifestyle business, and we will constrain that because we want to deliver a personal touch. You are skiing with directors and owners of the companies or volunteers. Mm-hmm. It's just about that, really, I think.
So we touched on this earlier with the weather, too. It is getting warmer overall, and it's in the back of my mind how long we're going to be able to do this.
Sure.
The snowmaking capability here is great. Yeah. It's very warm this week. We're talking 7, 8, 9 degrees in some places. That's Celsius, so 44 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is too warm for February. How long do you think this is going to be viable, and what challenges do you think we're having? I know snowmaking capability is quite good so long as it's cold. I guess, should people have a fear of missing out? I mean, this is a thing where,
FOMO.
Yeah, FOMO.
The answer is yes, because, I worry about it. And I spend all of my time in Italy and in Croatia as well over the summer. And, the temperatures that we're seeing are just crazy, just nuts. But every season, particularly over the last, 5 or 6 years, I've worried about this. Then comes another but, and that is in the 12 seasons that we've been operating, I remind myself of this regularly when the weather is as it is today. And that is only on one occasion, on one day, did we ever miss a run because it was closed because of lack of snow. And that was the Hidden Valley, and that was quite a few years ago. So in the 12 seasons, I don't know, we've probably run on average 10 to 15 ski safaris a season over that historical period. One day, on one occasion, have we missed one run because of lack of snow. That's a remarkable history.
There is good snow surety here. We're at a good elevation.
Yeah. And that's, there's a lot of myth, in inverted commas, about the Dolomites, that it's low and that it's not snow sure. There is a point there, but what people don't appreciate goes back to that grooming every night. The snow management here is beyond world leading. I mean, these guys are absolutely on top of their game. Yeah. They make snow, they know how to look after it, and that's why you get a short season as well, because they are pretty much guaranteeing snow from the first weekend of December until the first weekend of April, and then everything shuts down, period.
Yeah. So how can people find you?
Well, I'm not very good on social media, but we are there. The best way to find us is via the website, which is Inspired Italy. Or if you search Dolomites Ski Safari, we'll come up first, second, third, something like that on the first page of Google. But Inspired Italy is the website. You'll find us on YouTube, got quite a good YouTube presence. And again, Inspired Italy there. You'll find us on Instagram and Facebook.
Outstanding. Anything else? Any parting shots you want to leave people with? A last impression?
That's a really good question. The Dolomites, allegedly, and I would support this marketing speak, is sunny for 8 out of 10 days. Groom skiing, 8 out of 10 sunny days. Stopping on the top of the mountain is an experience that you will never repeat anywhere else unless you come back and do it with us a second year, of course.
Which is, of course, a third of the people who are doing this.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is a great testament to the quality of what you're putting out there and the experience.
Yeah.
A third of the people come back and do it again. They bring someone with them, which is another third. Yeah. And then a third are brand new people.
Exactly. That's exactly how it works. Yeah. Absolutely. So, book early is what they say.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to skiing with you again in the future. And if anyone has any questions, please go to eatdrinkfun.com. You can DM us at eatdrinkfun on all the socials, on X, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. Hope you enjoyed this, and thank you again, Tim, for taking the time. And I love what you're doing, and all the best to you in Inspired Italy.
Chris, thank you very much indeed. Absolute pleasure. Lovely to meet you.
Thanks again, Tim, for the time.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Great. Ciao, Chris.
Ciao.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you're a decent intermediate or above skier and you're looking for a memorable ski adventure in the Dolomites, I cannot recommend Inspired Italy enough. You can find them at inspireditaly.com and at Inspired Italy on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also contact them directly on WhatsApp. Please check out the links in the show notes for some of the things that we spoke about. And please also help EDF grow and become a true fan by liking, subscribing, commenting, rate and review wherever you get your content. The handle is at eatdrinkfun. Thanks again to Tim Hudson and Inspired Italy. And until next time, here's to eating well, drinking better, and always having fun.